In that island, there's sort of a shallow. Oh, that's a take. Let's go. Woo!
With many of the largest residents having avoided me first time around, I decided it was time to rejoin the Bayswater Syndicate after 3 years away. Having previously caught some of the well-known fish like the coconut common at £52 and the Caribbean Queen at £47 and a whole host of other 30s and 40s, I was itching to get started.
Very carpy area. Very carpy.
In my absence, these fish have continued to grow, and at the time of my return, the 9-acre syndicate water holds around 50 carp, with the biggest rumoured to be nudging £50. There are 4 main target fish that I'd really love to catch, but to start, the plan is simple, to catch as many as I can. I hit the floor running, fishing 3 4-night sessions back to back, starting on a frosty Sunday morning at the beginning of April.
So we are back at Bayswater for the second instalment of our campaign series here. It's the second week in April, the 10th of April to be precise. And since I left last Thursday, there's been 1 fish out. And that fish came from swim 2 yesterday morning, I believe, which was Saturday morning. And interestingly, it came on the bottom, not necessarily on a bottom bait, but it wasn't caught on a zig rig. And I know it to be sort of around 12 to 13 feet where the fish was caught, and that's very interesting. Obviously, at the back end of my last session, I pre-baited in the mouth of that bay, you know, with the anticipation of not fishing all of my 4 rods on zigs this week. And the reason for that is that although I believe zigs to be the most productive method at this time, I think that by fishing 2 rods on the bottom or with pop-up rigs, I'm more likely to catch the particular fish that I want to catch. That said, you know, I didn't pre-bait and think that I'm just going to come down and fish there willy-nilly. You know, I arrived this morning at 5 a.m. Looking at first light, and in the spring, first light is normally a really, really good time to see fish topping. Now, I didn't see a thing. It was a little bit foggy at times, but still didn't see any activity whatsoever. I came round to swim 9 and dropped a bottle, and then around 9 a.m. Ashley arrived, the cameraman, met him in the car park, loaded up the barra, came round, deposited that in swim 9, purely off the back of the fact that I've pre-baited in the mouth of that bay, that the wind is forecast to blow into the swim for the first 2 days of the session. But even still, like even with the wind blowing in, the fact that I pre-baited and that I caught fish last week, I'm still apprehensive about just going in here. You know, I've been continuing to look round. I've had a little stand in swim 8. I've been up the ladder a couple of times in the bay, but I haven't seen anything, which is worrying. You know, the fact that I know that the fish between me leaving and now have been sort of out in swim 2. You know, they could easily still be there, but at the same time, it's a small lake. The wind's blowing in here. I know that they favour this area. This is one of their favourite haunts during April, or it certainly was in years gone by. So I think moving forward, I am going to start here. I'm going to start in swim 9. Obviously, I've got my pre-baited patch. I know it's a good area, but I'm going to keep my eyes peeled. I'm going to keep looking, because if they do start topping elsewhere, I won't hesitate to move. Okay, so we are heading into the first evening. I'm not sure whether to be confident or not. You know, the rods have gone out well. The first rod I put out was the left of these 2 in front of me. And Ash thought he saw something out there. He heard something, looked out there, set of rings. I saw the rings. Obviously, I didn't see the fish, but it was very, very close to the area where I caught a few fish last week on the zig rig. So that's that's good. You know, I've got that out there, one cast, no problem. The rod on the right hand rod of these two out onto the pre-baited spot as such. You know, I had a bit of a palaver with that, if I'm honest. You know, I dropped it twice, blunted the hook on it, had to tie 2 fresh rigs, which was a bit of a nightmare. But on the 3rd attempt, I got it out there, what I call one and done. So it was like hand sharpened hook to checked again, and then I always like it when they go down to the bottom once and they're in position rather than have to lift, because you never know what they might catch, you know, might bump a stone or whatnot. But it's gone out there, one and done, happy with that. I've pre-baited quite heavily for the birds. That rod is, you know, it's prime real estate for the coots, prime real estate for the tufties, especially with there having been some bait in the water for a couple of days. So I've thrown quite a few handfuls of 10mm essential cell in the shallower water to keep them sort of busy. The 3rd rod I put it out on the side of the island over here. I saw a fish jump out there on the last evening of our first session, and I know that area. It's not an area where they hang out, but it's an area that they pass through a lot, so it's like a traffic point. And it has got form for doing the big uns, so I've got that one out there as well. And the 4th rod, as you can see, is hanging from the bivvy there. That's again set up on a stiff hinge rig with a little pink pop-up. But to be fair, I don't do too well on single pop-ups at night. Pop-ups with bait round, no problem, but single pop-ups at night, I have caught on them, don't get me wrong, but very, very, very rarely. And I don't know where to put it at the moment, so I've got a pop-up out of the pre-baited area, a zig where I caught last week, and near where Ash saw something show earlier, one on a passing point and one in reserve. Now, other than Ash's sighting, the only other thing that is giving me a little bit of hope as that we've got the location right is just 2 minutes or 5 minutes before we started doing this chat, there was 3 or 4 tufties in a little group out there with a single one just a little bit further behind, and suddenly the single one bricked it, like in panic, jumped out of the water and flew to his mates, and he looked sort of startled, you know, like something had spooked him. Now, I've seen it before, and if I had to bear, I think he probably saw a carp. The water's quite clear at the moment, and if they're high in the water, it's you know, a big carp 4 or 5 foot below a tufty would cause that sort of situation. But without having actually seen one myself, you know, you're always a little bit doubtful, apprehensive. But the wind is due to push in here really, really strongly tomorrow. It's a known area, they like to hang out at this time of year. So yeah, I need to see one to be 100% confident, but failing that, I think we're doing it pretty well. And yeah, fingers crossed for the night ahead.